Thank you for joining me for lesson 98 of Sefer HaMitzvos daily study. Today we have 5 mitzvahs. They're all negative: 181, 182, 184, 185, and back to 183. Once again, we're still in the section of relating to Mishnah Torah, to the forbidden foods, and like we learned this last time, there's a lot of these that are a little different than we might first think, the way they're interpreted. So first of all, the mitzvah not to eat from an injured animal. So it says in Exodus 22:30, "You shall not eat any meat that is torn in the field." So it's forbidden to eat the flesh of an animal that's been attacked by another animal and sustained life-threatening injuries, or an animal that's sustained injuries in another manner, even if it was later ritually slaughtered. So if you slaughter it and then you find it had something, an injury that it was going to die from, then it's asur, it's forbidden. The sages also derived some other things from this wording of this mitzvah. The fact that the Torah employs the words "in the field" when issuing the prohibition teaches us that certain other meats that have left their natural borders are also forbidden. And so this includes meat that was offered at the altar, can't be eaten outside of the temple courtyards, etc. And interestingly, an animal that's like extended a limb outside of the mother's womb, when the mother was slaughtered, before the animal was born, then that limb is considered forbidden to consume. So that's an interesting application. A third application that you'll see here is that any flesh torn from a living animal is forbidden, and this is because when you read it in the Hebrew, it can be read as, if I can find it. It can be read as, "You shall not eat any meat torn in the field." Like so the animal might be alive and some of its flesh was torn off of it. You're not allowed to eat from that flesh as well, if the animal is still living. So that's the first mitzvah. The second mitzvah is found in Deuteronomy 12:23, and it's that you're not allowed to eat the limb of a living animal. So it says in Deuteronomy 12:23, "And you may not eat the life with the meat." So it's forbidden to eat a limb that's been removed from an animal. This is also interesting because there is a prohibition that also appears in the Noahide commandments, in Genesis 9:4, which says, "But you may not eat flesh of a creature that is still alive." And so that is also forbidden there as well. All right, so that is one that's actually upon a mitzvah that's for all people. All right, Leviticus 7:26 says, "You shall not eat any blood." And so we're forbidden to eat any blood, and whoever does, it says, shall receive kares, which we've defined previously as punishment from Hashem directly. And someone who transgresses accidentally, like they did not mean to consume blood, but they accidentally did, then they bring a sin offering or purification offering. Negative mitzvah 185 is that we're forbidden to eat fats, certain fats from domesticated animals. And this is Leviticus 7:23, says, "You shall eat no fat of an ox, sheep, or goat." So this would be very problematic if you are one of those people who want to completely discount the oral traditions, the oral Torah, because then you wouldn't be eating any fat from an ox, sheep, or goat. Whereas this is actually certain fats that are on there. If you just went by this one verse, anyway, you might interpret it that way. I think there are other verses in the Torah that do kind of narrow it down as to what kinds of fats there are. But if you just went from this one verse in Leviticus, that's the conclusion you might come to. So it's really important to look at what the tradition says and also what other verses say in the Torah, rather than just going by one verse. All right. So finally, this is another mitzvah that we actually find before the giving of the Torah. Genesis 32:33 says, "Therefore the children of Israel do not eat the sciatic nerve." This comes from the story where Yaakov is struggling with this entity in the dark, and he says, "I'm not going to let you go till you give me a blessing." And the entity strikes him on the hip, and he ever since then has this limp, and because of this sciatic nerve that he's been injured, and so the Genesis 32 verse 33 says, "Therefore the children of Israel may not eat the displaced tendon which is on the socket of the hip until this day, for he touched the socket of Yaakov's hip in the hip sinew." And so this part of the body is referred to as the Gid Hanashe, and so that is understood to be this sciatic nerve, and on both hips, and certain other things surrounding it. It's very important that a butcher know exactly what that is, how to remove it, how to properly remove those parts that are forbidden. Otherwise, the meat from those back sections of the animal, those hip sections, are totally forbidden, and so there are very few kosher butchers who know how that is to be done, and so the meat from those regions that has been properly removed is often very, very expensive, and many many religious Jews would still not eat from those, as they don't have the tradition to do so. Um, very interesting and important mitzvah, um, especially someone who's wanting to eat kosher meats. If you are Jewish and you're wanting to eat kosher meat, just going by, just buying kosher animals in the store and not buying actually kosher slaughtered animals, you're very likely to be eating the sinew, the sciatic nerve. You're most probably eating fats that are forbidden. Um, the blood has not been properly drained from the meat, because even after the animal has been slaughtered, the blood needs to actually be salted out of the meat in a certain way, in a certain utensil, so that the meat doesn't get reabsorbed, or that the blood doesn't get reabsorbed into the meat or into um, the like the sauce or whatever that might be forming underneath the meat. That would be absolutely forbidden, and very likely also animals that are being slaughtered are not slaughtered in a kosher way. They're often like shot with a like a piston into their forehead, killing them that way, which is not at all what kosher slaughter permits, what the Torah permits, and also um, they're also very likely to be injured in a way that would make them forbidden to eat, even if they were slaughtered in a kosher way. They might have injuries um, to multiple parts of the body that would make them forbidden. And so, just buying regular uh, regular meat in the store, if you're Jewish, and you're trying to keep kosher, like in a kosher style, but you don't you're saying you eat biblically kosher. I can promise you that you are most likely not eating biblically kosher if you're not buying kosher meat. Um, you aren't, and you should consider the fact that these are mitzvahs that you can't be possibly keeping if that is your practice. And so it's something definitely to strongly consider, and look into, because we want to definitely be doing what the Torah commands. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for Sefer Mitzvahs Daily Study. Have a good Shabbos.